All right, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the TST Round Table, July 2020. I'm G. Trullia, the president and founder of TST, along with
Pierre, the vice president, and I think it's 2022 myself.
oh, very good catch. I was tested all year.
Yeah, just to see.
And John Stolberger, alias Bear Associate.
All right. So a couple of things, if you type some stuff into the Q&A, not the chat, we will entertain your questions. We do have tonight two special guests, not just one, two. Gary Smith and Craig Shippy. If you were on our last month or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
Craig Shippy was our instructor for the month, Volkswagen Audi. People really loved it. Great job there, Craig. So we're going to be interviewing both of them and give you some information about DiagNation that you probably haven't heard of. Okay. They don't see that, Dorian. Only we see it. Okay. So type your questions in there. One of the first things we'll kind of go over is one of our friends, actually, two of our friends are TST members, one being John Stolberger, or Bearmaster over here, and the guy he used to work with, Rich Flynn, retiring, getting out of the business like Mr. Pierre has done, right?
multiple times actually, but yeah,
But we rope him in. It's like being in the mob. He never can go. We
Yes.
get him back.
it's just like the mob without the kneecapping.
Well, we can arrange that, by the way.
Yeah.
But at any
That's
rate,
right. We do have leg breakers on staff.
we can just contact DiagNation to come out. They'll take care of you.
That's right.
But, you know, people put a lot of years in this business. It's a tough business. Just doing a class this weekend and had a very young guy in the class and a few other guys that were under 40. It's good to see some people coming in, but more people are leaving than coming in. We've had this problem now for years, and it doesn't seem to be really getting much better, right? You know,
Yeah.
so when you go out, all the stuff you had, you know, that big ass Snap-on toolbox, all your equipment worth sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, pretty much is not worth all that much.
Pennies on the dollar.
You don't get to hold it up. right?
Sorry.
So I can tell you, you know, I always say if I drop dead, that big toolbox and all the rest of the shit, throw my fat ass in there because it's a big mausoleum. You won't get much for it, right? You could have paid $20,000-$30,000 for a toolbox without tools in it, plus your whole life collection of tools, and they pretty much become worthless. But the good news is the industry is starting to change, right? You know, I think now after the pandemic, you can't get a lot of new cars. We've been busier than a one-on paper hanger in the shop, and people are spending the money, which they're not even looking at pricing. I can't talk about what we get an hour because that'd be pricing and we can get in trouble for that. But put it this way, we're getting a very good amount, and most of the shops I know are getting good money. That way they can pay their techs better. You know, when you look at the average amount a technician makes in this industry for what they need to know, it's scary, right? You know, it's like still 40, 50,000, half on the books, half off the books. We never do that. All our guys get paid on the books. It's how Bill bought a house, you know, and God forbid you get hurt. What happens? You got zip up.
And later, you know, a lot of, especially when you're young, you don't pay attention to this stuff,
Well,
but
yeah.
you know, one day you're going to want to collect Social Security or whatever. And if you earned all that money off the books, well, guess what? You're not getting much.
I didn't even think of that because I don't use,
Because I'm at that age.
I don't, yeah, both of us are, but I don't use my money from Social Security. I have other funds, but at some point, you're right. I want to do that, and why get a lower amount? And I know on compensation, I knew a friend that got hurt. His boss used to pay him half on, half off. When he was out, they only could go by what he made on the books. And that's not a lot. So I think the industry is getting more professional. You know, you see some good shop management systems out there. You see shops getting better and better, like a Seth Thornton type of shop.
Yeah.
You know, high-end shops are becoming air conditioned. We have an air conditioned shop. You
Yeah.
had one.
My shop was air conditioned and more shops also, at least the owners or the managers are going for business training or management training. They're not just trying to turn wrenches, they're trying to learn how to run the business as a business.
In fact, we're gonna have something, one of our main sponsors, excuse me, for TST is Dorman Products. Dorman Products, I think it's the 15th and 16th. Is that correct, Doreen, of September? Do you remember the dates? I think it's 15, 16. It's a Saturday and Sunday, 2 days of training. Kenny Sanders, myself, and Pete Meyer, heavy duty with Swede Owen. And then we have management, and it's going to be limited with management, a full day or 2 days, I should say, with Vin Waterhouse. Because without management, you cannot stay in this business. So that'll be down in Comar, Pennsylvania. Look for emails coming out from Dorman and of course from TST. So some of the things coming up, let's not forget our friends at Super Saturday
Yeah,
in
early, the
November.
beginning of November. Forgot
So
the date, but yeah.
check it out. We'll be sending emails out for them as well when Ron and Ross give us the information. So look for further things there. But the industry, I think, is changing. You know, I see some people that are in it starting to become better business people. And, you know, this is one of the reasons we got Gary on tonight. You can't fix every car and know everything about every car, is why you want to check out DiagNation. It's always good when you have a friend, you know, we network with each other. You know, Pierre was a BMW expert.
Yeah,
Then he went to a lousy car line. I mean, Craig Shippy's car line, the Volkswagen Audi setup there. And only kidding. But you know, it's good when you have someone. We just had Eric pop in.
So
and he's
you
another
guys are
shop
calling,
owner and board member here. But when you can network with people, that's good. But when shops are busy, people call me up sometimes. I can't get back to them right away. And that's where a DiagNation hotline with experts on there could walk you through. And having the right equipment. You know, years ago, a shop thought if they had a snap-on brick,
That was it.
oh, hey, that's all they needed.
That was it then.
You know?
yeah, that was it then, right?
So that being said, you know, you're gonna need a lot of different tools. And these guys support tools. You know, we're gonna interview them and they'll tell you exactly what they do. Questions? Here, we got stuff up there. No questions, no comments. Anyone want to say hi? How the hell you doing? Why did that guy Eric walk in late? Whoever.
He'll be penalized.
Yeah, we're gonna dock his pay since we all volunteer.
Okay, so with that being said, unless Eric has something to say about being a shop owner or whatever.
It's good. The only thing I say, it's tougher and tougher every year. And the more equipment and the more equipment, and the more equipment you need. How much money it costs you to survive today, and the challenge of the learning is it's overwhelming sometimes. But you know, you either stay in it or you get out of it. That's all there is to it.
You're gonna update or evaporate, but I gotta tell you, it's very difficult to find someone. I've had ads out looking for a good tech. You know, 1,500 to $2,000 a week on the books, benefits, and you can't even find anyone. And that's pretty scary. Okay, that is scary. That's decent money, you know, in most places.
I can't read that.
And if you live out in the Dakotas or something, it's very good money. So what do we got there, Pierre? You can't read?
Heat pumps.
Yeah, it says, why don't cars use heat pumps where evaporator becomes the condenser and so forth? In other words, back, two-way flow of heat.
Heat pumps are gonna be the way to go with everything. And you know, when you have that, a lot of the systems are gonna start to use that on electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Some of them are already out there. And you're gonna see more and more of it. Does it work real well in Fairbanks, Alaska, or in Phoenix, Arizona? The answer is absolutely not. You can leave it like that. They're not seeing that, only we see it. Oh, you can't see us, okay. Well, don't worry, it's the same ugly faces that we've had
yeah, you
before.
know,
face ain't
Let me just.
G, on that point, right, the RV industry, to your, to that question and answer point, on heat pumps, the RV industry is already there and they have been for a number of years and they're working fantastic in as many situations as we can put them in. So I think your heat pumps, you're going to start seeing much more rapidly coming into the electric cars and the hybrid and even the 48-volt bridge technology that's now kind of being deployed by Chrysler, Mercedes, and a number of those manufacturers as a bridge to the full electrics. Those are all going to be electric heat pump vehicles, I believe. That's a great point. There's another changing technology, right?
Yeah, and you know, that 48-volt system, when Pierre and I were on the STS board, part of SAE, was called the 42-volt system back then.
I
And
remember that.
extra voltage is really going to be helpful, like you said, and even to help the gas engine with a heated catalytic converter, full electric brakes, no hydraulics. And we're going to get there with these heat pumps. They're out there and getting better and better. So.
Yep.
Questions? You're right
I
there,
don't see
Eric.
it, no, no questions.
Okay, so what do you point to for, Doreen? Okay. All right, so now it's time to interview, so I could stop yakking unless Bear.
I just wanted to say quick on the retirement aspect. As a technician or a shop owner, where Eric was saying how difficult it is to keep up, you gotta at the same time plan your exit plan. Whether it's as a tech, you know, if you're just gonna be a tech or you're the owner. As an owner, I think G would say if you can groom someone to take over your existing, whether it's the business and the dirt and the building or just the business, is a godsend, because there's no you know, better way to do it than homegrown, because as you know, I'm sure you've all found out and we're finding out, as you know, Pierre and G said, I mean, your equipment, even if it's, you know, a year you bought it and it's a year old, is, if you aren't going to finance people, it's very hard to move unless you're just going to have a total fire sale. So
Right.
try to keep in mind as techs and owners that this too, you aren't going to do this forever, and it's going to come sooner than you think.
You know, I'd like to add something to that. You know, I have a daughter who used to complain when she was first out of college that, you know, her boss asked her to do this or that wasn't her job. My answer was always, do it and put it on your resume.
Yeah.
And that is the same advice to all of us in the industry. Broaden your horizons, be able to do a lot of things. That way, if different opportunities arise or your business turns sour and you have to do something else, you have a broader skill set.
But, you know, to Bear's point, the exit plan, super important, because someone like Rich, guy was a good tech, ran a good shop, you know, not only being a TST member, but I've been up there and know you worked there for years. He had, and an ex-girlfriend of mine used to work there. So we know that shop, that it was a good shop, and unfortunately, the building was sold from under him. And when people are used to coming to your particular business, especially where this is located, it wasn't easy to find another facility to move everything.
And how many years have you had equipment, and you have to move all that equipment and everything you've done for 20, 30 years? I might be going through that now myself.
Yeah, and that becomes very difficult. Rich was at the age of where he could say, okay, you know, I'm 63, the hell with it, I'm gonna retire. Because it is a big thing to do, a big move to say, hey, I'm gonna try to go start over somewhere else. I know when I moved into this building in 94, and thank God I own the building now, but when I moved into it from another place, when you move, I lost customers. And we're not even talking that far away. What is that, maybe 3 miles?
Not even.
Loyalty is
Yeah.
a dying. Loyalty is only week to week, day to day. I
Yeah.
mean, even your best customers is, you move, I don't know why, you know, the best ones, the good ones will follow you if it's a reasonable distance. But, you know, your others, they'll just.
Yeah, they move too.
They just go.
They move on.
They look at the next sign, look at the next sign on the same road you used to be on.
Force of habit, you know, if it was easier to get to your facility from their home, that's basically what they did. And I retained, thank God, a lot of them, but some of them we did lose until they had a bad problem. And they said, oh, well, you moved. It wasn't as convenient for me. Well, that's how this business is. So be
You know what?
careful if you're young, make sure you get yourself into a good shop. If you're a business owner, try to buy the property.
All right, so there's a couple questions here.
Oh,
Your community college system in the state. So we're talking community colleges looking for new techs.
all
The
right,
few I've
community
tried,
colleges here, we've contacted them and I do train the trainers for a lot of schools, like give a plug to ATC, Automotive Training Center down in PA where I got Bill from. And our good friend Jim Morton used to teach there. You know what? A lot of these young people are gonna go real close to where they live. And some of them, majority of them don't stay in the industry like Chris Hall,
Yeah,
who Chris
And
Hall
lots
is one
of
of my
others.
star guys.
yeah, lots of others. They see better opportunities elsewhere.
Look, when you get Chick-fil-A paying $21 an hour, to start, and you get some shop doing $15 an hour to get a apprentice who's gonna have to buy tools, this, that. And obviously, you're showing him a trade. If a young person goes to a particular trade school, they're all $45,000 or more a year without room and board. And that is a hell of a lot of money when you think it's not a full year. You're talking about maybe 7 months that they're really going through. And I noticed from teaching at all of these different professional schools, so.
I'll tell you, I tried in my area to pick up new techs that are going to these schools. Not a phone call back. And not just me, it's other people as
Oh,
well.
yeah, and remember, I got connections.
Yeah.
With teachers that I teach and stuff. Man, it's been like.
We are
pulling
desperate
teeth.
for techs today, desperate.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, look at that one member we had was a great member. He was a tech for one of the power companies,
PSE&G.
PSE&G. And he was a great guy and a good tech,
What was
but
his name doing?
Josh.
Josh, an opening, but he moved in-house. He became a lineman,
Yep.
right, without, moved sideways to where he was and can still play and do car things on the side, but the pay increase to be a lineman, yeah, it's cold in the winter and all, but he said it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
He for his family, it was that was the move he had to make. And just another case of and he wasn't super young, but a younger compared to us, a good tech. It was interested in training and learning. He got a better opportunity in-house, and I don't know what he makes, but it's more than Chick-fil-A, and that's not too bad, right? Like G said, not too bad right now.
By the way, both of those jobs, he was in union in both of them with PSE&G, but when he did go over to lineman, the pay increase was a lot more. Because people look down on what we do, and that's why we need to be professional every day. Don't have your ass hanging out there, dress appropriately.
Speak
And,
appropriately, act appropriately.
Yeah, don't do the F-bombs and the S-bombs, and it's really be professional, and that way we can pick up everything in this industry. I think the young people, I'm optimistic that younger people coming in are gonna do really well. If there's no other comments or questions, we're gonna get on with Gary Smith. I think your title, and correct me, Gary, if I'm wrong, President of DiagNation, and
Correct.
Craig Shippy, who is a great instructor that I know for years and a hotline guy besides a Volkswagen Audi guy. And he always has a nice smile on his face, which I like about my buddy Craig.
He
He's good
does.
people. Well, gentlemen, take it away. Gary, give us some information, please. And Craig, you just pop in and talk over Gary when you want.
No problem.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you guys very much, first of all, for having us on. Craig and I are really excited to be here with you guys and kind of talk about some of these industry issues. Before I tell you a little bit about DiagNation, there's a couple of things that were brought up in the beginning while you guys were rapping with the audience that really strikes the chord and kind of puts us into what DiagNation does. You know, the first thing that I remember being said that really struck me here was that you can't know it all, you can't fix it all, you can't remember it all. In other words, the proliferation of high-tech theories, technologies, ADAS, multiple communication networks, all that stuff that's going on in these cars today. Even for the best, most studied of tech that's got 30, 40 years of business and, let's say 60,000 hours of diagnostic time in his career. Even these guys are really struggling today to keep on top of the fire hose of information. But the other thing that really struck me was the mention of equipment. On the hotline, when we deal with a lot of shops that will call in for assistance, we'll find out they've had a car stuck in the lot for a month and a half, 2 months, and they're not able to get to the answer. And one of the first things we'll say to them is, okay, let's get the lab scope hooked up into this thing. And lo and behold, a really good percentage of them, if you guys can even believe it, just simply don't even have a scope on site, never mind know how to use it. And then, of course, we get a lot of people that do understand that. But yeah, before, that was one of the main reasons that we formed DiagNation. It actually was born out of two needs, one of which is a interesting one everybody can probably identify with, which is COVID. And it took a bunch of us instructors right off the market. In other words, out of business. So the way DiagNation came about was I've been supporting and selling equipment for 20 plus years within my own customer base of business. And I got thinking, hey, look, there's a lot of guys going out of work right now between training and between support. Let's see if we can put something together that's a platform for all of us guys that are already out in the industry doing these kind of things to be able to reach out and help shop owners a little better with this fire hose of technology that we're talking about. And that's literally how DiagNation was born, were those two issues, the fire hose and the lack of equipment issue, and then, of course, the training and coaching issue. What we found, we're actually celebrating our 2nd year anniversary here this week. So, we're a relatively, even though my business that kind of morphed into DiagNation is 20 plus years old, DiagNation as a group of networking techs and support guys that go out and help other shops is literally 2 years old as of the 20th of this month, which I believe is a couple of days from now on Wednesday. So, what's really happened here, and the reason I'm really excited to be able to talk to you guys is that we've kind of hit a nerve here with this business that helps shop owners and technicians on whatever level they're at technically to get down to the answer on some of these problems. One of the issues that we identified when we started DiagNation was that a lot of the support lines that are out there, although they're really good and they've got a good bench of techs, is what I call the take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning paradigm. So you call in for a technical problem, the rep on the other end of the line does some research, says, hey, why don't you try this and call me in the morning, which is why I jokingly call it the take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning approach. The really neat thing about where I believe DiagNation has struck a nerve with the guys out in the industry is that our cases are based on resolution of the car. So when you call into DiagNation and you're on a single ticket, for example, whether you're a single ticket or a member, and you call in a case and a VIN with us, our guys, Craig, Adam, Hector, all these guys that we have in our realm are going to get with your technician and they're going to do guided fault finding. Yes, they do the research and the analysis to try to help the tech get a good plan to diagnose the car. But the beautiful thing about what DiagNation does is we actually physically log into the tool and do guided fault finding, whether it be on the scanner. And a ton of our work is done on lab scopes, on finding these problems where the car's been sitting in the lot for a month and we're not getting an answer on it. So that's the nerve we're really hitting. And what I just, before I shut up and let you guys ask the next question, one of the things I want to point out that's been massive, that's made, we haven't even advertised yet, and we're dealing with over 350 regular customers in the first 2 years. One of the reasons that's happening is that we're finding, and we're actually hearing from shop owners, that every single one of our guided fault finding cases with a technician becomes its own little training class, but it's on a live car that's having a problem. So it helps to show that tech a different thought process, a different diagnostic strategy, and maybe a different approach to get down and dirty and figure out that problem. And the neat thing is that we'll stay with you until that case is resolved. And that's unlike any other support network out there. So we're very, very hands-on, and we do things a lot differently than a traditional support company. We're much more hands-on, interactive with that shop for what they particularly need and for the tech that's working on the car. Your mic's down, G.
Delay of a second or so. Still, there you
There
go,
we
right?
go.
Okay.
Yep.
So Gary, leads to the question of, if I'm on a ticket and I'm on this BMW, how many times could I call back in? Let's say, to give me 5 steps to do, it didn't fix it. Do you go to the end of that car?
Absolutely.
And there's no extra charge?
Well, let me throw a little piece in there. Here's the way we work our cases, and that's a fantastic question. A case in our business is defined as we bring the tech and the shop owner and the customer to resolution. I want to be very clear on what that means. Resolution could either mean several cases that we're involved in now, where we've got parts coming in and out. We've got a really deep problem where there's more than one problem on the vehicle that gets us to the fix. So that, for example, a complex problem, so that we may be on or off that car with that technician 10, 15 times over 2 months before we get it resolved. And we're there and we spend that time and we stick with them all the way through it. Okay, but let me explain how we charge. In normal cases, which means even if it's a tough one and we've got to spend an hour and a half or 2 hours of live login time with that client, we're going to go ahead and get that done. And we've had cases where we spent far more than that, never charged another dime. But here's where we will charge another dime. If, let's say, we get a case and that guy says, look, this thing's been at 3 dealerships, it's been at 2 independent shops, it just got towed into my facility, this guy's burned out on what he spent already, we need an answer, blah, blah, blah. And I talked to that technician or shop owner, excuse me, and I determined that, okay, we're well beyond all the basics. We're not going to do the magic bullet here. This guy needs us to log in and go circuit per circuit through that complex network until we find the wire that's pulled down, that's shutting down half the car. Now, in that case, if we get to that stage where we're going to need to spend another 3, 4, 5 hours with that client, we will speak with them and consult with them and agree on an additional ticket charge on that car. But that's it. Once that ticket charge is paid, if this thing goes 5 months and you have to call us back 5 different times to log in and help with that car, that's what we guarantee for our cases is resolution. So one thing I'm very proud of, guys, is we have not let go of any car since we've started this business, and we've come to a successful resolution on all of them. But let me tell you what sometimes that resolution is, just so everybody's fair in their mind with what we're talking about. Resolution, the reason I use that term is it's almost legal in the sense that we'll guarantee you for that case, you're going to get resolution as a shop owner or as a tech. But sometimes that resolution, I think you could agree, is in the form of the customer giving up and throwing up his hands and said, I'm out, I'm not spending any more money, or I'm trading the car, or I'm bringing it to Uncle Joe to fix under the mango tree, whatever it is, right? That situation is also going to be considered in my book, and I believe in the shop owner's book too, resolution. So we either stick with you until that car is fixed, no matter how deep the problem is, or we wear the customer out trying as a team, us and the shop that's working on the car. But we don't do that very often, Craig, do we?
No, we don't. We get it right.
Yeah, we try real hard to get it right.
Well, trying to get it right is the big thing, putting people on the right track. It's always, I equate it to chefs. It's like if you had 5 chefs digging in, making a stew, when it went to the dealership and other shops, now you're in for hell.
Right,
That's the problem. So I think the
Right.
person on the other end that you're helping has to realize, hey, this is a tough problem and it's going to cost me X.
That's
Now,
the
I
one
don't
we
know if-
like.
By the way, it makes good stuff for your classes,
it does.
right? The real
Yeah.
stories. I
Yeah,
guess
if
we
I
can't
could-
talk, we can't talk about pricing, but please give your website out so they can go look for pricing. How's that?
Okay, that's fantastic. Here's something I could do if it's okay to share my screen. I put up QR codes so you guys can take pictures. If you want to do it that way, I'll obviously give you the website, but I've got
Okay.
support,
We
at
could
the
do
end
that,
or whatever,
Gary.
I can put them up.
Let's
Um,
just answer a couple of questions that we have here that Eric will read. And
Sure.
then we'll take it from there. Put the mic near him here.
It just says more and more reliance on smart machines, dumb text, I guess.
Okay, don't read,
And-
don't read silly stuff.
Yeah. Attendant, okay, that's what was the questions you were referring to.
All right,
No,
so if
no,
there's
we're good.
nothing that's super important there, that's not a real question. Gary, why don't you put that up and let everyone take their phone?
So what is the single ticket price?
We just said we can't
Okay.
discuss that. He's gonna give a QR code up there.
Okay.
We don't want to get in any legal spiegel
Right.
trouble.
Now, can you get me so I can do a screen share, or should I just? Yeah, because it says we're disabled with screen sharing here, so I'm not sure. Okay, so we don't have, yeah, we may need to enable the screen sharing on that side, but just so you guys know, while we're trying to do that, the way that you find information on us is twofold. You can, you all right, G, you're trying to say something there? Okay, I didn't hear anything come through. You're still not coming through, G.
I'm on.
Oh, there you go. Now you're on.
yeah. She made a change. Try to share right now.
Okay, let's do it. Fantastic. Okay.
So you guys get your,
Okay, there we go. So, let's see. Okay, so the way that anybody can contact us anytime is either through DiagNation, www.diagnation.com, all one word, diagnation.com, or you can call us and speak to either Craig, myself, one of the guys, or our awesome dispatcher, Cody, who you'll absolutely love. She's a great personality to have with us. And that phone number for the DiagNation hotline is going to be 775 area code 438-3424. Okay, so either diagnation.com or 775-438-3424. And I'm going to go ahead here for a second and up on the screen now, you have the DiagNation support QR code. When you guys have taken a couple of seconds to take a picture of that, I'll roll it and we'll go ahead. Hopefully everybody's got a shot of that. We can put this back up at the end again if we need to, G. This is the QR code for the training section of the website. If you guys want to take a minute and snap that. And again, if it's okay with G, we'll put it up at the end in case anybody can't get their camera out quick enough. So that's the training QR. And then here is the equipment links where we go in and deal with shops on equipment, as well as training people on that new equipment, which is a very needed piece in this industry today. When a shop owner invests in a piece of equipment, they need training on that. We provide that with any equipment we sell. And so that's our lab scope QR code. And then we do have diagnostic scan tools, multiple ones. If you search our website a little bit, the one that I've directed you to here on this scan tool QR is going to be the eye scan. That's where Craig and I do a ton and I mean a ton of OEM level European support through that tool. So guys, those are the four, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen now if G agrees everybody's had a long enough time to do that.
I agree.
And then we can get back to the interview. We good, G?
We're good. We're good.
Fantastic. Okay, we're back off.
Another
screen share.
question I have for you, Gary,
Sure.
and which I'm a big fan of. I had the first one, the second one, and now iScan 3. Very, very good when it comes to Euro and Asian cars. And now
Yes.
with the I probably forgot the name, but when it connects, was that IM something or another?
IMS2, the
IMS,
IMS2.
That is very, very powerful. And
Very.
I think, iScan is a well-kept secret. For years, Autologic, a great tool, Pierre ran it in the shop. I had one here, a full-blown unit, still have it. But iScan has really come to the rescue many, many times. In fact, just recently, and, I'm nothing against Launch or Autel, very, very good tools as well. And Snap-on,
Very
the
good.
guys were trying to get something done on a car. And I said, hey, just take out, if you look at Launch and Autel, the software is similar. Okay, and a lot of times Snap-on just doesn't follow through with everything. Good on domestics, some Asian, but Euro they're weak on. Take out the iScan and boom, you're done.
Yep.
It's a great tool.
You fill in the holes.
You fill in the hole.
Bingo.
So it
Bingo.
is a
Eric
very,
just
very
said
good
it.
tool.
That's
So
exactly
one of
what
the
I
questions we
tell
have is,
people.
do you offer support for all car lines from somebody?
okay.
Cool.
That is a great question. And the answer is we do have full support for most car lines and now let me qualify that. In the area of diagnostics, we don't care what it is. It can be an RV, it can be a Euro car, it can be a supercar, domestic Asian. When it comes to diagnostics, we'll jump in on anything that has a motor and a computer that runs, okay? Love that. That gets us in trouble, right, Craig?
Yeah.
Don't forget
Lawnmower
boats and
for you.
motorcycles.
Yes, don't forget boats and motorcycles. Okay, but when it comes to programming, this is where we need to speak with the shop. I'm going to recommend that most of you that are interested in doing actual programming and coding events with us, go out on DiagNation, look at the memberships and look at the disclaimers at the bottom of the membership packages, because that's where I've tried to, in as little of a wordy way as possible, put some pricing guidelines, and that's all we can do until we see what car, what year, what module, what era, what the equipment the shop has to work with, if that makes sense to you guys. In other words, the programming aspect of it, yes, we can do 90% plus of those too, okay? The problem is sometimes internet, sometimes it's internet quality, sometimes we need that tech that, depending on what he's programming, to have a special dealer head that he doesn't have. It could be that the vehicle wants to go through the emulator on iScan and not through J2534. So that guy might have a J box, but not an iScan, and that might limit what we can program for modules, if that makes sense. So the programming question is subjective to what we need to do that day. That question needs to be asked on the hotline once you put your VIN in to get service. But to answer your question, yes, we will bite off diagnostics on anything that you guys need help with. We don't care what it is. And we have no restrictions on make or model saying, we won't work on these. From diagnostic standpoint, everything.
And Gary, you bring up a good point. An article that I wrote recently for Motor Age was on a active hybrid BMW. And another hotline per se, because I have ISTA, but another hotline said, well, without the, and I was using a J box through it, without the ICOM, they couldn't do it. I switched over to the iScan and emulated it, and it worked perfect.
Yep.
So it's another good plug, and I'm not getting paid to say that. If you don't have an iScan, you really want to check into it. It really is a powerful tool.
Absolutely. Not only that, but Eric said it a minute ago. I found for me, I'm a launch distributor, so I sell launch. I have for 24 years. Great tool, like you said about the Autels and the launches, great tools, okay, but they have a lot of holes. what I love about the eye scan is it's the greatest filler tool you've ever had for the stuff that the launch won't do, and vice versa. There's a few weaknesses on the scanner side for domestics on eye scan because they're so good at programming the Euros and Asians, but your launch picks up the slack there, right? So
As well
it's a
as mode
great,
6, where
Right.
Launch does a very good job and does a very good pre and post scan, where iScan is not there yet.
So as a
Right.
shop owner for me, at my shop, I'm always debating, do I buy the eye scan or do I buy AutoLogic? So and I haven't taken the plunge yet. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like right there, but it's like, where do I go?
You buy
What's the
both.
support? Where do I, that's a big question. Surtax.
Well,
well,
the bottom line is, there is the Opus tool is a good tool, but it has limitations.
Yeah.
So the real world is, if you had enough money, you get everything.
Yeah, of course. That's
Right.
that's
But
great.
because there's no perfect tool, as Gary said, iScan is weak on domestic. They do have a lot of programming files in the tool itself, which is pretty good. Some domestic too, like Ford.
especially
I would
Ford,
not-
yeah.
Right, I would not use the tool on domestic cars. Asian, even for keys. Now, I have other tools, we won't get into names so we don't pee companies off. But you get specific code, key coding scanners. And they don't work, but you put the eye scan on it, and you get it to work. So
Right.
that's another question I want to ask you, Gary. So if someone needs to program a key for a Hyundai or a Honda, a Beamer or a Benz, do you guys do that as well?
Yes, okay, and I say that with the hesitation that I did before, which is we do have to evaluate the vehicle and what's available. Because as you guys know, anybody that's on with us tonight knows that there's certain era cars, years, models, makes that require this to relearn a key. So the answer is yes, we do that work quite frequently, but the ability for us to successfully complete that operation on that car is dependent on certain things. But yes, overall speaking, we have no problem with that whatsoever. Craig, do you want to throw anything in on
Yeah,
that?
so it's down to the shop's tooling. So if they have what's capable to do the job, there's no problem. I don't see anything that stop us from doing it.
You ever acquired list a battery maintainer or anything before these people as a member of your group? Do they have to give you a list of what equipment they have so you know what you're getting into?
Not really. I usually just ask, what do you have on hand? If I don't think it's sufficient, the guy's like, oh yeah, I've got jumper cables in another car. I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably a good
Yeah.
idea, yeah.
Hey, Bear has a question here.
As far as the keys, does the tech or the shop need the locksmith's license, or you would have that? That's a new thing. I'm not that familiar with it, but I know it's it's required, right, Gene?
All right.
So LSID or PSP.
Certain
and
car
as we
lines,
know, some
yes.
Companies out there are doing it a different way per se. Per
Yeah.
key, they'll kind of vet you. It's better if you do go to NASDAQ, www.nasdf.org, and sign up for VSP, vehicle service professional / locksmith, and pay you $400 nowadays. But if not, this question is, can you guys help that person?
We can. Is that correct, Craig, or do you want to put some caveats on that?
All right. Yeah. So we can help them. It's always down to tooling also, because a lot of these tools have the capability to do that without anything. It's all on board. So it ends up being, what do you have? We'll go check out the OE websites and see what what everybody needs to be okay with that.
What the requirements are,
With
yeah.
requirements. Yep.
Okay, so someone, let's say you're on a Volkswagen Audi, Craig's bowling alley there. And the person doesn't have Otis. How can you help that person out? We know that's really the only way of programming when it comes to Volkswagen Audi.
That's the question. What happens if the shop owner doesn't have LSID license?
Well, they said they
Yeah.
can do it, they can help.
Yeah, if it's a manufacturer that requires LSID and we have the right equipment on board at that shop, we can accommodate it. However, like Craig was just saying, a lot of those operations, LSID aside, a lot of those operations are dependent on what we have to work with, what you have to work with as a shop there on site. There have been times when we've had a desperate shop owner that doesn't want to buy, let's say, a $4,000 scope to figure out that car. Although I would humbly like to say if he's in that position, he really might want to consider a scope. But you know, where we'll package one up and send one overnight. In other words, we try every time we can within reason and within cost expense to work with that shop to get them a resolution on the car. So LSID isn't a problem for us over here. The biggest problem that we'll run into from me and Craig's standpoint when we're working with a client is going to be two things. It's going to be the tooling available to run the programming. And quite frankly, the reason that that's so important is you have a lot of these cars that are programming over Ethernet now, or they don't play friendly on J2534. One example of that's Volkswagen Audi. Okay. Now, if the guy only has a J box and he's got no iScan or no laptop with Otis set up or no interface for us to get on and use Otis, then we're SOL until we either help him get set up with said setup or rent him and ship him one for that one car or whatever. But no matter what, we will go to the mat with that client to try to help them get set up. You know, and on that end, if I could just throw one more thing in, G, you know, listen, one of the things I tell shops is, like Craig said, we'll interview you on what you need or what you have based on the job when we call in. If you're a new customer, we should have that discussion because you might have 3/4 of the equation in your shop working for you already. Why go reinvent the wheel and buy something you don't need? What I try to do is say to the guy, look, you need an Autel or a Launch, a generic tool there. You need an iScan and you need a scope. If you can put a scope and an iScan and a generic tool like Autel or Launch, the guys you're working with here online at DiagNation are going to have about a 95% success rate on anything and everything you need to do on that car. Are there exceptions? Yes, there are. But boy, we're literally with those three tools on hand, we are 95% coverage on any car you want to bring in right up the line. Where it gets sticky is the programming of certain supercars. For example, we're full good on Bentley, Rolls, you know, all those, but we're not good on Maserati. We're not good on Aston Martin. Those require special dealer heads and special setups. Okay, now if I have a client that calls in and says, look, I work on a lot of Astons, I have this tool, can you program for me? Yep, no problem. Okay, but that's what I try to get each client to talk to us about is what is needed to be able to cover 90 to 95% of the testing, diagnostics, and programming that you need done in that shop. It's those three simple tools. Not everybody can afford all of them at once, but think about it. What I was just saying is most of you guys already have 50 or 75% of that equation in play. So if you want to get on and start, you know, being more productive with the European cars, get some programming in there, because you guys know, like I do, you can't plug anything into a European car, not even a headlight now, without doing a coding and basic setting function on that part. So that's where we can really help you. But in a lot of cases, when we get a fresh person that calls in, we do have to have that discussion, and we do have to disappoint them sometimes just because they don't have what we need right at that moment. But we're always there to help get you set up for that.
So let's take this scenario. A guy needs Otis to do this Audi. You send it out. How do you do this? The guy gives you his credit card. Let's say he's a one ticket. He's not a member. So I'm sure your member has a credit card on file with you. Is that correct?
Right.
So let's say I'm a
Correct.
one-time shop. I found out about DiagNation from watching this great TST interview.
There you go.
So I decided to call in and I get Craig and he's saying, hey, you're gonna need Otis. Well, I don't have that and I don't have an eye scan. So tell us the process of how you're gonna get it to him and what Craig is gonna do from his end. Because the guy, as we know, Otis is not the easiest tool. And if you guys want to learn how to use Otis, well, you should have watched Craig's webinar or attend the Craig class. That's for damn sure, right?
Right.
But Craig, give us
Sure.
the scenario.
All right, so there's multiple things we could do. One, we could go down the route of getting Otis and showing him how to get Otis. You said if he doesn't have an eye scan, we also have, being DiagNation, we have people on the ground. So whatever state it is, it doesn't matter. We're going to have someone local in that area that could come down to the shop.
Or we can package up said eye scan and ship it overnight. And yes, we will charge your credit card. And yes, we will hold a deposit for that $4,000 tool. Right?
Okay, so
but,
let's say the guy's
if-
in your state, like Craig said, is there an
Uh-huh.
extra fee? I would assume, but I'm sure people are thinking about that. What's the fee for someone to come out there?
What if
Okay.
it's in our state?
So I want to,
Yes.
I want to stop that before you even answer, Craig. We don't come out to shops ever. What Craig is referring to, I shouldn't say ever. Let's say 1% of the time we might show up at an actual shop. We are 100% remote in this business. What Craig's referring to is we deal with a ton of mobile techs around the country in most of the major metros. So therefore, not all, but most of the major metros, we've got peeps, as I like to say, where, look, if I don't have a mobile tech that we could dispatch, yes, that's going to cost you money, but guess what? It solved your problem. If we don't have a mobile tech, that's when we will say to the shop owner, okay, it's going to cost you $250 plus an overnight rental. We're going to send the eye scan out, one of our spare eye scans. We're going to get you done that way. Right. I want to make sure that everybody's very clear. We do not leave our offices and drive out to shops. What we will do is ask customers to help, maybe loan a tool locally, and that happens a lot. One of the things that's really cool about the DiagNation network, it's not just the DiagNation guys you get to deal with. You get to network with all of our customers when the chips are down like that too. We can call a guy and go, hey, you got a lab scope? We got this guy over here that, and boy, what I love about our network is we're all in this together. Okay, so as long as it's not a major competitor that you hate his guts that's next door that you've been fighting with for 40 years, right? The chances are pretty good we're going to have somebody in that area, whether it's a mobile tech or a customer, that's more than willing to help you out. And that's the beautiful thing about the DiagNation is it's support, it's training, it's help locally on the ground when you need it. And we just try to do the best we can. But I did want to make sure we shut that discussion about driving out to the shop down real quick because we try really hard never to do that.
With that being said, that was a good move there. We'll get to a question that we have in a second, but so
Sure.
Craig, the laptop has come out to me or the eye scan and the guy don't know how to operate it. What do you guys do?
We are always going to jump on the tool and direct you or, show you how to use it, show you the ease of using it. So you're not afraid of anything. And it's pretty hard to blow up a Volkswagen or an Audi. Other brands, not so easy,
Other brands, it's a
So
lot easier to hurt
basically,
than VW.
You're gonna take control of the tool that you sent them remotely. And that
Correct.
way, if the guy doesn't know how to do it, he doesn't have the ability.
We do it.
because he's
We
fearful,
do,
whatever,
right.
You guys are gonna do it for him.
but I would
Correct.
more likely to show him how to do it. So he's confident on doing it. So next time he's just like, oh yeah, I could do this.
Right.
So rather than giving him the fish, you're gonna show him how to fish.
We're going
Correct.
to teach them how to fish.
Can you,
Right.
you can remote on an eye scan? I don't know.
Say that
Can you
to him.
was the
remote on an
question,
eye
Eric?
scan? Can you remote
Yes.
on an eye scan? I don't know that.
Yes,
Yes.
we can do full remote on an eye scan, whether it's programming or scanning. We also, we have on our web server, we have a support connection that's all internal. So we log in, we take control of your lab scope and or the scan tool. And by the way, guys, to answer any questions that are going to come on this, like, can you work with my tool and my tool and my tool? The answer is very simple. If you have a web-enabled platform of any kind, a USB scope, a Snap-on scope and scanner that can actually get to a web browser, that's the big distinction on Snap-on. Some of the older ones won't have the web browser function, but if you have a web-enabled Snap-on, like a Solus Ultra, a Modus Ultra, a Vantage Pro or a Zeus, we can log in and take full control of that tool. That's one of the reasons why, Craig just mentioned it, and I mentioned it a little earlier, but that's one of the reasons why we believe we've hit a nerve, because every time we do guided fault finding, programming, or help a guy get out of a problem, it literally is like its own little training class. So it's just like it's a win-win for all of us. And we've been having a blast doing this and, working with you guys out there, because you can't hire 20 techs that know everything about everything at every shop. We've become a very needed resource that wasn't so needed even 5 years ago. But man, it's great when you have a network of people that can jump on and care about that car with you, care about the customer, care about the tech, and get to an answer. We're just, we're thrilled to be here doing what we're doing. We're feeling blessed.
Very good. Hey, Craig, why don't you give us one of your hotline scenarios that you were on recently?
Hotline scenarios.
A
Yeah,
positive
just
one,
someone
Craig,
called
a
in, had a
positive
problem.
one. No.
And tell us how you help the guy to resolve it, so people can get an idea of what you do. And I'm sure, I know you have a lot of them personally, so.
I do have quite a bit, but one of the other things is like getting the tool list, knowing what they have. A lot of people have a lot of tools but don't know the capability, and that's a part of my deal where I'll go in and figure out what's the capability of your tool. Last shop I helped, like you said, they wanted to do a key. And I said, what tools do you have? And I found out what tools. I'm not going to say the name of the tools. And I said, you could do it right on with that tool. And he said, I haven't used that in years. Let's bring it out, blow the dust off of it. 1, 2, 3 was done. He was happy. I was happy. And we moved on from there.
Yeah.
I have a question, Craig. What scopes do you typically see the most of?
We usually a lot of Pico. What's his name's the ATS scope? I see 50-50 on the Pico and the ATS, but there's also the DiagNation scope, which is pretty powerful.
Oh, you have your own scope. Okay.
Could you give us
Yes,
a little info on that? That's one scope I
Yeah.
don't own. What is that?
Absolutely. So thanks for bringing that up, Craig. Okay, so lab scopes. And I also have a case that I want to answer your question with real quick, G. The DiagNation lab scope, we found a real serious need where on some of these very faster signals on ADAS cars and so on and so forth, the 20 megahertz processor speed on some of the automotive scopes that are out there today, meaning most all of them, do fantastic at 80 or 90% of signal acquisition on automotive stuff. But some of the faster RF stuff, the faster ADAS stuff, some of the guys that are doing advanced lab scoping are getting some resolution problems on some of the faster signals with that 20 megahertz processor. So we did some research and we began to import these scopes from the Netherlands. This is called the TP, TIE. Everybody thinks it stands for TIPI, but it's TP Engineering. And we private labeled these and we're the US distributor and Canadian distributor for this product. The unique piece about this is twofold. This is not a scope that's going to compete with a Pico or an ATS. It's a next level scope for Pico and ATS users to acquire to go the next level in their shop. This scope runs at 250 megahertz of bandwidth with a 1 gigasample per second sampling rate. This scope has 12 decades faster processing speed and sampling rate than the average automotive scope. I'm not going to name them. I don't want trouble. Okay, but there's several main ones. We all know who they are. This one is different in that it is going to be 12 times faster processing speed, which means your detail and resolution is incredible on this thing. It has a software that lets you do overlays and tests for the next car that comes in. But the biggest thing I like about this scope is it's Wi-Fi capable, not Bluetooth capable, Wi-Fi. This thing, when you boot it up, goes on your network and you grab it off any laptop in the shop that has the software. You need no cable to get this thing to the car and the laptop. In addition to that, this 4-channel module has a little port back here where you can buy a jumper cable in a second module and turn it into an 8-channel, a 12-channel, a 16-channel, wherever you want to go. Okay, so this is a new next level scope. TP, by the way, is the second largest scope manufacturer and distributor in all of Europe and Australia, but they're new to the US through our company. You guys should probably check it out if you're looking for a next level scope that'll bring you to levels that the current automotive scopes can't go. So that's the quick.
Of course,
down
Gary, it
and
does
dirty.
all the basic stuff as well. People
Oh.
don't need to buy different scopes. It's gonna do fuel injectors, O2s,
Oh.
everything else, right?
Absolutely, and it also has what I think is one of the best new lab scope user automatic setup platforms that's click and drag into the screen that I've ever seen. It's really a cool scope for a new
Now-
user.
Another important question, is it Cat3 capable, using it on high voltage?
Okay, it is, as long as we get the proper attenuators and the proper differential probes, but the answer is yes, it can do high voltage.
All right, so attenuators, we know like Pico, once you go over a certain voltage, you could damage the scope. Is
Correct.
there a problem with that? Do you have to use an attenuator on signals like a fuel injector, for argument's sake?
Okay, so that's a great question. Yes, this scope does require attenuators. And they are available from ×10, ×100, whatever. The kit themselves comes with 4 ×10s. Okay, and please don't hold me to this. I might be putting my foot in my mouth because I don't have my spec sheet in front of me. But my recollection is this will go 200 volts before you need an attenuator. It could be 100, I might be wrong, but it's right around that. But yes, it does need an attenuator for those very, very high voltage signals that you may want to work at. So if
Very
you were
cool.
to do, let's say, live hybrid or electric motor testing, you would need the proper Cat3 differential probes for handling AC current. Okay, and you would most likely need an attenuator depending on what kind of voltage that system was generating.
Right, because I
But yes,
noticed,
we can do
I
that.
noticed the scope ends, the B and Cs you have on there are metal, correct? If you tilt it? They're
That
metal
is
B and
correct.
Cs.
Yep. It's
Okay,
metal
are the-
BNCs.
Are the scope leads that come with it metal?
The scope leads, 1 second.
Gotta get all the answers, Greg.
You're talking to some seasoned scope guys here.
Pierre and I even worked on a
We-
28 channel fluke scope.
Oh,
That was a
man, you're
nightmare
going
to
back
set
a
up.
few days. G's going back a few days with that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the lead set is standard BNC, but what
That's
you're gonna
plastic.
notice when you open this kit, is that if you take, it's hard to describe on a video, but they're very soft and pliable. They don't kink, they don't get twisted up. This is
Unwired.
actually it surprised me the most out of this kit when I bought it was the sheer quality of these leads. These things are really, really nice.
How about the ends? You could unplug those ends, go into the
Yeah,
connection that
you
you
bet.
want.
Right, so we have, let me see if I can get this so that you can see it without tipping it upside down. Okay, but the automotive kit comes with your 2 amp clamps. It comes with 8 colored back probes. It comes with 5 grounds down here. And it comes with all your attenuators. You can see those in the top cover, as well as some ignition pickups. And the thing I love about this kit is it has the accelerometer kit built into it for trigger, capture, and analysis of NVH events. Okay, so we can play NVH, we can do crankshaft and crankshaft decoding. This scope has a fabulous CAN and FlexRay bus analyzer and decoder on it, which we are teaching a lot of people how to get the answer really quick with that part of the tool. It does
that
require
means you're going to do a lab scope class at some point, correct? Maybe you'll do it
That's
for
correct.
TST.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And listen, when we do a lab scope class for you guys, we're gonna physically come up into the area and do it personal hands-on. And the beautiful thing about that class, G, is that we say, bring your scope. It doesn't matter what it says on it. Bring it, and we're gonna teach you how to use it. We don't care if it's an old handheld, a USB, an ATS, a Pico, a TP, a Snap-on. When we run a basic and or advanced lab scope class, it's hands-on with us in the room with you. And we set the number of people to that class to how many helpers we have on the back side of the class, meaning if G's willing to help run around and push buttons while we're teaching, we can accommodate more people, that kind of thing. So yeah, we do hands-on. And the other thing that's really neat that DiagNation does is you can go online. Can I share my screen real quick again?
Sure, but Bear has one quick
Wait,
question.
Well, do you have
Sure.
pressure transducers, or will that work with anyone's pressure transducers?
Yes and yes. We do have a pressure transducer kit that's available with it. That's very comprehensive. Or you can take existing transducer kits, either from a Pico or maybe an ATS, and we can run it through this scope. And the only thing we have to do there is just do a quick check and make sure the resolution and the numbering is correct. That's where the challenge comes in. Using another transducer is the scaling, but 9 times out of 10, we can run it through a chart real quick and get it scaled right. So yes, we have our own transducers, but we also work well with any of the others kind of, in the sandbox.
I have a question as well. Can you
Sure.
download the software like you can with Pico or ATS and use it in
Yes.
demo mode without buying the scope?
You absolutely can. Yep. And that's what that function right there is really what got me interested in TP, because when I opened it up on my computer, I just couldn't believe what I was looking at, the capabilities. To give you an idea, when we started importing this scope, I was shocked to find in the first year that we were importing it, we sold more of these scopes to big labs, and I can't, because we're being recorded, I can't mention their names. I'm likely to get in trouble. But we have some major laboratories with company names that trade in the blue chips, let's put it that way. We've sold more scopes to laboratories than we have in the automotive since we've started bringing them into the country. And the reason I point that out is this is a scope. I fully believe this is a scope that myself, I don't think there's an automotive technician that can outgrow the capability of this scope if we've got laser and computer engineers buying 8 of these for their computer bench. So this is a new thing to look at, but I'm going to tell you what, this thing is a screamer when you put it on a network. My goodness, the stuff you can see the capacitor wringing energy out into this thing when it transmits. It's so accurate. It's just a super nice platform. If you download the software and play with it, you're going to get addicted, because what happens is this has drag and drop configuration. And once you're used to using this tool, it is fast, it's easy, it's on the Wi-Fi, so it's just available to you all day. Grab the scope, bring it to the car, fire up your laptop. No USB necessary. This is a little bad boy right here.
Gary, is that software downloadable from your website, or we got to go to some other
It
website?
is. Yep, it's downloadable right on the products page. Okay, so if you take that LabScope QR code that I flashed up for you, it's going to take you directly to this product. And if you scroll down, you'll see where it says downloads and information. You just click downloads and you can pull the software in right there, right? So yes, the software, the drivers, everything's available right there. And man, it is really worth a look. I'll tell you that. I'm floored after having access to this thing for a couple of years at what it'll do. It's amazing.
Oh, Gary, you didn't talk about their additional software also, with makes and models.
Yeah, okay, so this, okay, the neat thing about TP is it comes with this ATIS software. When you run the ATIS software along with a TP scope, this has a database that already has a ton of existing waveforms, wiring schematics, pre-saved tests that you can pull in. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say that we have a Toyota or a Lexus car. We have a EVAP problem with it. The EVAP monitor runs in the first 28 seconds after you turn the key on. So 90% of techs, by the time they spend a minute, minute and a half rolling that car in the bay, they're all done for 8 hours because the test already ran. Well, with this software, what you could do is set up a car and run an EVAP test on it and record it. And you can actually annotate the different parts of the test, saying this is where the module turned on the EVAP, this is where it turned it off, this is where it pulse width modulated it, and I can record that test. Now, the next time that Toyota rolls in, anyone that's like it, I can take that file, physically drag it into the scope screen, and now it's live on the live scope screen, and you're running your problematic car on top of the known good waveform that you've saved in the database. Now, if you upload those to TP, they will actually add what you've put in too, which means the more of us that use this software, the more powerful of our own known good test and waveform database we have. So Craig, that's a great thing that you mentioned this. Plus, this allows all kinds of automatic setups with pictures on how to hook the scope up, how to do the test. Yeah, this is real deal for automotive.
Yeah, it's also brand specific. So it'll show you if you're new to scopes or just that vehicle, it'll tell you exactly where to hook your leads up to do whatever test you are trying to find.
Right.
Well, sounds like a very powerful tool. I wonder how many people out there, if anyone has it, type a letter Y in. How many people do you think, Gary, in the automotive field currently have that scope?
That's a hard question to ask or answer. I'm going to say from my perspective, it's a little better than a couple of hundred at this point. But the TP was doing some business before we took over as the exclusive distributor to help them in the US. And what I mean by that is Volvo Truck, and Volvo Truck, all by corporate agreement, have TP scopes in their dealerships. Okay, so kind of like you have Toyota with Pico for NVH, Volvo company uses TP in their dealerships. So that the number I just threw out at you is not necessarily including that network.
Very cool. Here,
A couple of questions.
Okay.
Yeah,
One more-
Eric has something to
Is the
read.
ground independent on the scope, or is it each channel gonna be ground like a Pico?
Okay, each channel is grounded on this. And the reason that that's a great question, but a reason it's important for me to point this out is this scope can run in either what they call safe ground mode, or it can run in full differential mode, right? So the user has to select safe ground mode or differential mode. If we're in differential mode, we're going across the device with the leads and there is no ground because we're in differential mode. If you're in safe ground mode and you need to ground, you need to ground the scope in order to get a waveform up, then you're going to select safe ground mode. You're going to ground the channel and you're going to do it like you do with any other scope.
So safe ground is like a totally isolated grounds, and differential mode is a
Correct.
typical differential scope.
Correct. And it will
Okay.
run in both modes. Yeah.
The only other question is, how is the scope powered?
What was the other question?
How is the scope powered?
What powers it? Yeah.
Okay, so what powers this scope is an AC adapter that goes in right there. All right. And this battery, I'll tell you this, I did a training class for 6.5 hours at Vision with this battery running on the desk, and it never went dead. Scope running. Now, I'm not saying you can't wear the battery down on it, but I've had this scope now for a couple of years. I've never had the battery run out while I'm in the middle of lab scoping something. And if I do, just like any other scope, I can plug it in, right? But it does require the AC, okay? And it will run on a battery on the Wi-Fi, and it'll sit there for hours and run. So that's how you recharge it. And plus,
software?
it gives you status indicators that it's actually locked on the network, that it's talking to the tool, and that you've got a good battery. So all those statuses are here.
Windows-based software only or Android, Apple?
It's going to be Windows-based. To my knowledge, they don't have a way to run it on an Android device right now.
Good information.
I might be wrong. I can call them and ask that question, but to my knowledge, they don't have an Android. It's going to be a Windows download.
Very cool. All right.
Awesome.
More questions there, I think.
Is there a question there, Eric?
Let's get a good. Are you able to program overseas? That's an old question.
Okay. Only if it's a US VIN.
Only if it's a US VIN.
Only if it's a US VIN. Out of the country VINs, we have way too many troubles. So we don't even try. We did for a while, but it's very, very problematic programming, rest, in Volkswagen calls it ROW, rest of world cars. We're US VINs only. US. and
So that
Canadian
means
VINs only.
if a gray market car was in this country with a non-US VIN, that would be problematical, right?
Depends on the year and the model. Maybe not if it was a Euro car. The one where we just simply can't put our system on is Otis. If we try and program any kind of Otis with an out of the country or out of the North America, it's not just US, it's US and Canada and Mexico. If it's not a North American VIN, we can't run it through Otis. And that's true of quite a few of the manufacturers. It'll immediately flag for out of region, and it shuts it down.
Gary, on your hotline, is it a visual hotline where you're on the guy's tablet or computer? Or is it just
Yes.
verbal over the phone?
It's both. So typically we'll have an open phone line. So the tech and our tech will have a cell phone line open. Like we're having a regular conversation on a speakerphone, so the tech's hands-free. We have control of their tool. They see the tool on their end, we see it on our end. We're looking at the same thing together. That's where the hands-on guided fault finding until the case is resolved becomes real powerful, because we can see what the difference between what we do and the tech on the ground is that our techs have nothing but the data on their screens to work with and the voice of the technician in the background. We can't smell the car burning oil. We can't hear it ticking. We can't feel it misfiring with our hand on the valve cover. So we guide the tech through the wire harness or whatever it is we're testing based on the data that we see on the screen and agree is the next stage that we need to go in that diagnostic. So we're totally holistic and involved with that client while we're online. The one exception to that is when you log into an OEM software for programming via the iScan, you get a programming screen that just shows our connection in the car. You don't see anything going on in the background. But on the scanner for diagnosis, on the scope for diagnosis, you see all of it just like we do. We're working on it together.
Do you provide any screenshots that a shop can give to their customer, let's say off Otis or GM?
Oh, yeah.
Or any other tool?
all the time.
Especially
and
when you
here's-
come in, when you're on a electrified vehicle, whether it be hybrid, extended range, or full electric. Good idea to always give them that screenshot that everything is good when you get off that car.
You
As
bet.
Craig knows with e-trons, they're gonna ask a million questions to make sure you know what you're doing.
Right, right. Are you sure
Yes,
you
yeah.
want to
Okay,
push
I'm
this
sure
button?
already.
Yeah.
And don't forget to have your luggage locked.
Yeah, right. Listen, whenever a manufacturer comes up on a scan tool and says, are you sure you want to push this button? That's when you want to stop and think, right, Craig?
Yep.
Now,
So-
how about if someone does not speak English, any foreign languages? Spanish is big, Russian, Polish.
Yes.
You have someone that
Right.
can translate?
Right now, we can, if we need to, by appointment, we can get a Russian translator on. We do have some, I don't speak Spanish, but one or two of our guys speak Spanish. So if we have somebody that is not Spanish speaking, not English speaking, and they speak only Spanish, we can get somebody that will habla en español to them.
Very good.
And interact that way, okay? As far as other languages, I literally about, I guess, 4 or 5 months ago, had my mom come on and translate an automotive discussion with a guy in Portuguese that couldn't speak English. My mother's fluent in Portuguese. So funny enough, she's 80 years old. I call her up. I'm like, yeah, Ma, you got a minute? And
Very cool.
we got her on and she had a blast. She says, I'll do that for you anytime you want. So, we've got a few languages covered. I wouldn't say we don't have Swahili and that kind of stuff down yet, but we're getting there.
And with Craig, you got New Yorkese. New Yorkese, you gotta know all the lingo, right?
There you go.
Another question. Wiring diagrams or something, if someone needs a wiring diagram for the vehicle they're working on, is that provided to them?
It is within the scope of what we have and what we need to get the VIN fixed we're working on. I would not for a minute say that we're a source for you to call and get a schematic, because then all of a sudden we'd be in big trouble. Okay.
yeah.
But if we're working on a case, and let's say you have an All Data or a Mitchell's and it's not quite giving you what you need on that Land Rover or on that Audi or on that
Right.
Benz or
Yeah.
whatever. Yes, we do have a lot of stuff in our archives that we can help with and share with a tech or a shop that's on a call with us. And so we'll leave it that way. I don't always have what that guy needs. He might call me and say, hey, I'm working on this and I need a this. And I'll say, well, I don't have a this, but I'll certainly call around in my network and see who has a this. And 85, 90% of the time, I've got a guy over here that's got a this, and he's happy to send me the screenshot, and then I send it on to my client. That's one of the beautiful things I was saying to you guys about working with DiagNation is we're bigger than just our staff at the desk that's answering the phones. We're a network of guys that can dig deep and get the answer when you need it.
Very cool. Any other questions there for us, or we're all good
Yeah,
with them?
I got another one for Craig. Going backward, the scenarios, I know you touched on program, but on a more, basic level,
Guys, we're losing that mic a little bit closer, please.
or, hands-on problem, not hands-on, what's the word, with a specific, not a programming, but more of
Diagnostic.
diagnostic problem, I just curious, how you go about it. And I understand, your help can only be as good as the person's basic knowledge of electricity or other things. At some point, I'm sure you're gonna tell someone to do a voltage drop on ground, G, whatever, and they're gonna have to have the ability to perform a voltage drop.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so with just like a voltage drop, I don't mind teaching that person how to do it over the phone. That's not a problem. We will be releasing small videos on YouTube on doing like basic voltage drop or basic stuff that we could always refer you to, so you have an idea how to do it. I will never leave you where I say do a voltage drop and you're stuck. You know, that's not us.
No.
Very good.
And-
Thank you.
Sure. And one other point on that, because I think G asked a question, or somebody did, and said, give us one of your scenarios. Let me give you a 30-second on one we just had that was very interesting. We had a client call and ask Craig to do a reprogramming on a module on an Audi vehicle. The tech that was working on the car had diagnosed the module as being bad, had ordered the part. And now they called in and said, okay, the part's here. Now, just to qualify this, we were only getting involved in this car in the beginning to program this module. So it had been diagnosed by the tech, not by us or with us. So they called in and said, hey, we need this module program. Okay, why'd you put it in the car? Well, we had this, and this that weren't working. Great. So we went on, Craig programmed the module. It didn't fix the car, not the programming. We know the programming has nothing to do with that. The call on the PCM didn't fix the car. Okay. Now what? Do we hang up, or do we offer the guy to help him figure out what's wrong with the car? So we offer to help him figure out what's wrong with the car. So Craig worked with him for maybe a day and a half, going through some of those voltage drop tests and basic testing that we try to, guided fault finding that we try to walk a tech through. But then it got to a point where we had a problem in the wire harness, and Craig said, okay, guys, at this point, all the magic fun is over. The magic chicken bones are over. You know, the scan tool magic and the programming magic isn't fixing the car. And now we need to get a lab scope on it. So we actually put the lab scope on the car. And at that point, because Craig is handling such a volume of Volkswagen Audi diagnostics programming, he'll then turn that car over to myself or Adam. And we, being the lab scope specialist, will then take over the guided fault finding and help the tech find the car. In this case, it was simply a broken wire. We were on it in 35 minutes and done and fixed, and the car was down. So it's sometimes you'll work with multiple DiagNation techs based on the problem you're having and what kind of resources we've got to pull to help you get the answer on that vehicle.
So the ticket is per DTC per se, or like per problem?
It's per case. Okay, if it's a diagnostic. Now, if it's a programming, it's per module. For example, if for some reason you had a lightning strike and it wiped out 8 modules in the car, there's going to be some upcharges on multiple modules like that. Okay, we're reasonable with it. We don't soak anybody. It's not 150 per. But if you spend 150 with us to program one, and you've got 5 other modules you need programmed and initialized, and it's going to take our guys the time to do that, we're going to work on a case-by-case basis with that shop owner and quote him on what needs to happen before we get started, so there's no surprises.
Okay, so now I have another question. You know, a lot of the newer vehicles, they're starting to lock modules out. They're a one-time use only.
Correct.
So I'm sure you come across some people that don't give you the full story, is probably the best way to say it. And they,
Yes.
rather than buying the new module, they get a used one,
Right.
put it in, don't let you know. And now Craig is trying to help, or one of your other guys, Adam or whoever, is trying to help this guy program it. What happens at that point?
Craig, you want to take that, or you want me to take it?
That's not anymore. I don't know.
Greg
All right,
hates that
so
one.
it
Yeah,
matters
I'll
by
tell you later.
it matters by vehicle. So it matters what vehicle you're working on. There's avenues that you could go through that, you know, the module could probably be sent away if you don't know about that, reprogrammed and sent
Virginized.
back to you. Yeah.
Certain
Yeah,
car
so
lines are going to
virginized, yeah.
require, as you mentioned, right? Certain vehicles are going to 100% require a new module. But there are cars, for example, if you're trying to do a Volvo, the only way you're going to do a used module in a Volvo is to get it 100% virginized, and good luck with that. Okay. So Volvo's a car line where you're putting new modules in because you're stuck putting new modules in. If anyone on this webinar has a source for virginizing Volvo modules, I'm all ears, baby. Okay, but for example, BMW, VW, in some cases, there are vehicle lines out there where, let's say they lock one up. The procedure, to answer the question directly, is Craig's going to go online to program that module. He didn't tell us it's a used one. When he logs in and he goes to do the programming, there's going to be a VIN error.
Yeah.
And Craig's going to see that VIN error and he's going to say, stop right there on this car. You need a new module, or you need to send this one out to be virginized, and then I can go ahead and code it for you. But again, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. When you call in with that VIN, we'll evaluate it and let you know what we can and what we can't do with that.
And on programming, it's not Euros, all of them, have you seen a lot of these modules now that can't be programmed and have to be virtualized?
Yeah, there's more and more of them. Craig can probably give you a little more detail, but I know BMW's one, Volvo's one.
And Mercedes.
GM is one. Okay, GM does not like used modules, especially in the new global format.
And
You know, there's a bunch of them.
Ford started that, even in their IDS, they blocked you out, I think about 6, 7 versions ago, to program a used module.
Yep.
So I think
They're going to
there's
the same
more and
thing.
More of that coming out now where, you know, there are some tools out there, let's say,
Right, that'll pick up.
right, that can do some of them, but some, you're gonna have to take that chip out or something. There's no
Right.
way around it.
No, that's where the EEPROM thing comes in, and the EEPROM, everybody's interested in it, and a lot of people are starting to try to do it. But that's a very unique skill set in itself, because you've got to be able to desolder chips and program, you know, you've got to kind of know what you're doing when you're
Gary,
doing
you and I
EEPROM work.
need 2 sets of glasses at that point, right?
Exactly.
And I
That's
need
exactly
three.
right. That's exactly right.
That's a tough, I have some students that have gone through that type of stuff, and it's difficult. You need the bench, you need the time, you need the chips, you need the patience.
You need the information to reset the chip, because that all comes out of databases and CSV files that are, you know, you have to get from this source and that source.
Right.
Yeah, it's becoming more viable and necessary, but it is an investment in the study in and of itself to get into EEPROM and virginize those modules yourself. So there are a lot of outside companies where you can send it overnight, they'll virginize it and send it back in 48 hours. But you have to seek that out by car line.
Right. It's like some of those Volkswagen Audi columns. There's a place out there in Illinois that rather than buying that whole setup from the dealer for crazy couple of plus $1,000, $600-700.
You're talking about the steering column locks, right? In
Very
Kessie
common.
cars, right?
You know, those are multiple use time. You could use those more than once, right?
Yeah, but when you get to the lockout point, you can't. So there's some.
He can.
Yeah, you can.
You know,
Craig
it's all about
That's
networking.
his little smile. He's like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, Craig's like, yeah, y'all can't do it, but I can. No.
Well, you know, you guys both know Dominic, right? Dominic Felix.
Yeah.
And that guy is a resource big time when it comes to Euro cars. He knows a
You bet.
lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
that's how we learn off each other. It's a great industry like that, where we have
Sure is.
people like Craig, yourself, and Dominic, and many, many more people that are probably on as well. Resources out there, and that's what networking's all about. You know, at
It is.
TST, we always tell people it's not only about attending the seminar or going to the webinar, whatever. Every person you come in contact with knows something and can help you. They don't have to be the instructor. You pick up
Right.
valuable information by network.
You know, I'd like to add something to that, because I've been saying this for years to people. The 3 most powerful words in our vocabulary are, I don't know. And if you won't admit that you don't know something, you're not going to try to find that answer. And so that's part of the networking. You have to admit, I don't know. And then you can
Right.
ask somebody else.
That's
You
right.
know, it's like you ask Pierre about BMWs because he has vast experience with it. And
Sure.
that years of people have asked Pierre or, contacted a guy that was good just in Mercedes. That's the thing, you network with people, and
Right.
it seems like your DiagNation is something like that, where you have a group of different people on there that have different experience, put that experience together. Like you said, hey, Craig is busy programming, jump off, give it to you or Adam Roberts or whatever. Hey, you gotta work smart, not hard, right? Name of the
That's
game.
right. That's right. And we try to utilize, we recognize within our company that each of our guys has a different skill set. So we're going to draw from that skill set. Like when Craig would pass that car over to me for the lab scoping. Okay. Craig can use a lab scope. He understands what he's doing and knows what he's looking at. But for the problem we had on that car, he felt it would be better if I jumped on with him. Okay. And there's sometimes when he feels it's going to be better to have Adam jump on because of Adam's specific skill set in certain areas of the car. And that's the beautiful thing about drawing from that network, is that we can do that. A lot of the support lines have what they call model line specialists. And while that is important, I'm going to say this and probably piss the whole industry off, but I have to say it. Okay, ready to get pissed off, industry? Most hotlines that you call today have model line specialists. What I've run into in the business is most model line specialists may have been a flat rate tech that's worn out that really couldn't get it done on the floor. So model line specialists and support companies is a real relative term these days. That's why I love the networking we do, because when we identify a specific need, we get the right person involved with the ticket and get that shop help.
Yeah, and that's a good point, that you bring up there, Gary. Just because you worked at a Ford dealership or a Toyota, whatever, doesn't mean you're gonna be really good helping someone. I'm not gonna get into names, but obviously I've been around the block a while. And I have seen people on hotlines steer someone wrong because maybe they didn't fully understand that.
Right.
And of course, they learn as they go through. I mean, some hotlines that have been around will go one company that's not in business anymore. But the old Aspire hotline with JR and stuff, these guys learned early on. They were specialists in the field, but then they realized, holy crap, we can't answer every question. But we start building a database. Because you know what? That Ford, that Toyota, they're gonna break down in different areas at different times. When I ran multiple shops, maybe we didn't see that vehicle break down in Westchester, but Rockland, where people had more money, we seen that vehicle first fail. And then that
Right.
information became valuable to share between the different shops. And
Right.
that's what it is out there. The specialist, like we said, quote unquote, that specialist, car line specialist may not have that experience. Someone
Right.
like Craig that worked for other hotlines in the past, he's been around the block besides working on cars and still doing it and teaching classes. He is obviously a valuable part of your business. And I know
Yeah.
you for many years as well,
Sure.
doing a whole bunch of stuff, chasing gators in Florida and going up to Maryland. Had to get the gators.
Sometimes you got to chase a gator, But yeah,
But,
that's such a good point, G, that's a super good point, is that a model line specialist sometimes becomes your best friend for that magic bullet answer. But sometimes, because like you said, he kind of worked in a dealership his whole life, he got tired of wrenching. So now he's sitting on some hotline somewhere. Well, listen, sometimes those are the guys that say, oh, well, on all those cars, it's this module, just put it in and, okay. And then you put it in and you got the same bloody problem you had before. So that's where model line specialists can sometimes get dangerous as compared to a true diagnostician, if that makes sense.
And the aftermarket guy that works on multiple car lines like I do in my shop, you have a different type of experience than when I worked at a dealer. Worked at a dealer, I see the same crap all day long. And you get the pattern failures. I always say, if you want the best experience, let's speak to young people coming in, you really need to work in a shop that has the right equipment, It's professional, clean. You're gonna be a better tech than someone just working for BMW, GM, or whoever. It
Yeah.
does make a difference.
A
You
more
know, I'd like to add
well-rounded
to
tech.
that. I'd like to add to that, you know, there's some very talented people in dealers, but if they're there for 10 years, they're only seeing 10 years worth of cars. They don't know the older technology necessarily, and they don't see what came along afterwards.
Right.
So, you know, they may be really sharp on those 10 years, and pattern failures.
Yep.
But what Jerry's talking is you gotta be diversified more.
Yeah, but not only
Right.
that, Pierre, working in a dealership years back, like myself, the cars were new.
Yeah.
And you know, when a
Right.
dealer gives you specifications with ohms to check something,
Yeah.
because they know, hey, if you got OL, it's broken. But what happens when a vehicle gets 60, 70 plus thousand miles on it, now there's a different problem on that car. And when it goes to Eric, goes to me, goes to Joe Schmo down the road and someone else, now it's a harder problem to fix. And that's why I think the aftermarket independent shop is really, well, they're more into scopes, let's say, right? They're more up
Yeah.
there. The other guy is dependent on the codes. They become code dependent. They go by what the dealer says, the trouble tree. I've proved it out a million times. The trouble tree can get you in trouble.
Yep.
And then, like Pierre said, there are talented guys in dealerships, but they're
Very
the
much.
guys. We have that Subaru guy, what's his name?
Joel.
Subaru guy up in Poughkeepsie.
Oh,
Or whatever his
Poughkeepsie,
name is,
right.
this guy, he comes to TST for years, Leo, thank you,
Leo,
Leo
right.
Gilmore. He was out at Vision, doing a class. Leo thinks out of the box. He's taking his time to learn aftermarket stuff, pick a scope up, not because Subaru training told him to do that, because he read stuff. He had an open mind. I think you get tunnel vision when you're that dealer hotline tech.
You know, I think the other part of it is they're satisfied with not diagnosing everything successfully. And people like Leo are not satisfied with that. They want to know,
Right.
they want to diagnose every single one successfly, as do
Right.
I.
Then there's Bob
And-
in the auto parts room. Hey, Bob, give me that part there?
Yeah.
Then it don't
Yeah.
work, they put it back in,
Or-
use the glue gun in the box. right?
Or parts counter diagnostics where the guy says, I sell a lot of those, so that's got to be what it is.
Ah. Yeah. Okay, so let me tell you what the biggest thing I see on the DiagNation line is. You all just said it. Here's what it is. When you need a support company, what you're really looking for, because we all work in the production industry, the customer satisfaction industry, and we're trying to roll that iron off our bay, out of our bay. What are we really looking for with a support call? We're looking for a magic bullet, aren't we? 9 times out of 10, we're looking for that magic bullet. Here's the biggest thing I found in 2 years of doing this: rapid fire, day after day after day, hard case, hard case, hard case, hard case, hard case. You know what the hard cases come from? Somebody trying to find that magic bullet, listening to the magic bullet, firing the magic bullet into the car, only to find out it didn't fix it. What am I saying? The biggest problem with the toughest cases that come into our hotline is a lack of physical testing on the car before the tech gets in trouble with parts replacements.
And a
Full
failure
stop,
to look at the
period.
basics.
I think a lot of
Bingo.
it has to do with logics of how the system works.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Logic is
And-
key. If you don't know logic of how the system works, you're in trouble.
And that's
There's
where
a
the
lot of
model
stuff.
line specialist can get you in trouble.
You know, there's a lot of basics that are just skipped over, like Pierre said. I used an example in a class on a Toyota hybrid. And you look down, it told it was a high voltage computer and a PCM. The bottom line is it wound up being the 12-volt battery. Simple. You know why? They never checked the 12-volt battery. The vehicle don't need to start on a 12-volt battery. It just takes the SMRs and turns that just on with minimal voltage. And then, of course, your high voltage battery starts to start.
Right.
So you could go down a bad path by not checking the basics. And that's where
Okay.
people, you know, when you look at bidirectional control on a scan tool, most techs really don't understand how it works, or a sensor simulator. They have no clue why they would even use it. And it's all because in this industry, you can roll a toolbox in and call yourself a mechanic. And the guys with the biggest toolboxes sometimes, they can't do jack. They got
No.
every tool, but they can't use them.
But gee, what they do have at the end of that is a sleep 6 toolbox that they can bury themselves in as a coffin.
There he did that.
I do have
He did
that, I
that.
do have that big toolbox
Yeah, nice.
and all my standard stuff. If anyone wants to buy it, I'll sell it to them.
For pennies on the dollar.
That is
Yeah.
on the dollar. That's what it always is.
I
right?
was thinking. for that.
We'll give
Any
Rich
questions?
and Bear, where can people call you guys if you're in the Dutchess County area, if you're anywhere in New York?
You
Good.
can call me at cell phone 845-214-6107.
Say it
don't-
again.
845-214-6107. That's my cell, and if you don't get me, leave a message, I'll get back to you. We have a lot of well-maintained equipment, specialty tools, office supplies, the lifts and alignment machine and bigger stuff like that stayed with the building. But you know, all the other
All the other 60 years of business.
31 years in the same,
31 years.
31 years in the same location of, you know, two guys that like tools and liked equipment. That the wives ain't letting us bring it all home to, because then their car would be in the driveway and not the garage, but anyway.
So if you're looking for some stuff, you can give Bear a
Yeah.
call.
Small
It
stuff.
sounds
we
like
would
there's
ship.
deals to be had.
Yeah, that's it. They'll deal
I'd
with
like
it.
to see someone else be able to use it too, you know, somebody else could use it and help them out at a, you know, reduced price, wouldn't hurt my feelings.
You know, I seen something Rusty Flake. You guys know who Rusty
Yeah.
Flake is? Rusty Flake did a very nice thing.
Yeah.
And this guy T, I call him over, not to beat his name up,
Turmeric.
Namara, but I call him T all the time over in Africa. Rusty sent him all his tools. What a nice
Wow.
thing to do. And
You
you
know-
always see T over at Vision, and one day he'll be coming out to the TST big event. But
That's
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
great.
one thing I love Rusty Flake for. I mean, that guy is a super solid human. And when you take a guy that's retiring and going away and he does a beautiful blessing to somebody like that that's in need, that's what I love about our business.
God bless him, a good guy, Rusty Flake.
Yep. You bet.
So if you got nothing better to do with your equipment, you know, rather than let it sit in your garage, do nothing, you die, they're gonna sell it for pennies on the dollar, maybe give
Find
it
a
to
needy
someone.
body.
Yep. Give it to someone who can really use it, and that's a good thing. So
bet.
in wrapping up with you, Gary, any other things you want to tell us besides, again, put up your DiagNation stuff? Any questions that anyone has for Gary or Craig? Don't forget to go check out diagnation.net, .com or net.
.com, yep,
.com.
.com. Yep,
And
so,
check these guys out.
yeah, we have these up. I'll keep flipping them here as I talk and wrap up, but you know, first of all, G and the TST board, I want to thank you guys very much from the bottom of my heart for having us on, having Craig and I on tonight to talk about support needs and support process and what typically can be done and can't be done. And then I'd like to say to the guys that are watching tonight, hey, guys, listen, if you guys need help, there's 3 ways to get us. You can come online and do a membership yearly, monthly. And the one thing I want everybody to hear very clearly is we always accept single calls. We never make you be a member to work with us. You can go right online to diagnation.com support, which is going to be this QR. Where are we?
They're moving
1,
pretty
2,
quick.
3, 4. There we go. There's
I think you're
support.
trying to hypnotize me.
So all you need to do is go on diagnation.com, pick the single support case, click on it, call into the hotline number, get into our queue, and we're going to be fixing cars together, guys. You don't need to be a member until you want to be. We're here to help every single shop to get to the answer on that car.
One more question for you. How long does it take to get a response?
That is subjective to how busy the day is, but we usually, if we're not buried 3 deep apiece, usually we're within 15 to 30 minutes tops. Wouldn't you agree with that, Craig? On certain busy days, we might be an hour, hour and a half out, but normally our dispatcher is going to let you know that when you call in to get in the queue. We're
But
pretty quick.
safely, we could say within 3 hours,
Yeah.
you would have help.
Oh, yeah. And if you don't have help in 3 hours, you better be calling my line back, screaming at somebody in a nice way, of course.
That's a big
And
plus.
the reason why I bring that up, look, if you got a problem car, you had to do all your homework anyway. Sometimes it's better to move away from it, and if you could wait a couple hours or so, that is more than reasonable in my opinion.
Yeah, or stuck on your lift or.
Absolutely.
Situation.
Well, very cool. I do want to thank both you, Gary Smith, and Craig Shippy. Everyone that came out tonight, we do thank you. Next month, we will be doing another free TST Roundtable. We like to entertain all your thoughts or comments. You can always email us at info@tstseminars.org or myself, GT@tstseminars.org. Tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear, what classes you're looking for. Let's not forget our TST big event in March, I think the 19th. Is that correct, Doreen? 2023. It's our 20th year. Come out, see some, 18th or 19th, we're not even sure.
It's up on the website anyway, right?
Yeah, it should be up on the web. Is it? Not yet.
Oh.
Doreen hasn't done it yet. We're all volunteers, so, but it's one of those days in April. In March, rather. Hey, I
Well,
gotta get
listen,
some sleep tonight.
As a compliment to you guys, right? I hear a lot of super good things about the TST event. Yeah, just in the hallways of other training events, guys really love your training event, G. And, just from my perspective, you're a really good mentor out there for a lot of these guys. You have a great network, and I hope that you guys get another 20 years of doing those events.
Well, thank you. We couldn't do it without, obviously, all the people out there, and of course, Pierre here and Eric and Bear that have donated their time as well, and Doreen.
And all
So
our
we
corporate
abuse all the
sponsors
time.
as well.
Yes, our corporate sponsors.
Yeah, especially them.
Corporate sponsors have been phenomenal in helping us get the training out there for a very reasonable price. So, Super Saturday, a reminder coming up in November, and the dormant training
That's right.
in September. Anything you guys got for training coming up that you want to mention?
Well, Craig and I will both be out at Bemmers. Adam and I will be teaching our new game-changing network diagnostic changing class on network diagnostics at the ASCCA event. Also at ATE East in Spokane, and then of course at Bemmers in mid-October. So we'll be at those three events. Craig's actually going to be teaching a couple of Volkswagen classes at Bemmers this year, so we're really excited about that. So yeah, we do have several, if you guys want to keep an eye on where our guys are out there training, and G, I can work with you a little bit on this inter-network together. But if you typically, when we have one of our guys going out on an event, we'll post that out on the DiagNation.com Facebook page. So some of you guys might want to just like and share that and follow that. So that way you'll be able to see whenever myself or Adam or Craig's going to be hitting the road doing a training event around the country. But yeah,
Excellent.
we have a
Yeah,
very, very active fall.
If you email us the info, we do that for a couple of other training events up on the TST
Okay.
website. People can go look to see what's coming up. We're more than glad to
Fantastic.
put that up. It's about networking,
Fantastic.
working together, helping the
Yep.
industry, right?
It really truly is, man. That's why we go out and do what we do every day. And gee, I think that's probably why you and your guys do what you do and show up at events to teach and coach. And, it's all about bringing up the brotherhood as far as I'm concerned. We're all in the same business with the same goals. If we can spend the time lifting each other up instead of competing and tearing each other down, we're going to be a better industry.
You bet. Remember, we keep America running.
bet we do.
Without technicians / mechanics, this country wouldn't run.
I'd like to, to add to that, and I've said this for years, we want to be professional. We want to be looked at as professionals. And the way to do that is to act professionally. All these things we're talking about, educating ourselves, networking, not stabbing each other in the back. You go to a doctor, even if the last doctor was a total butcher, he's never going to say that. He's just going to say, this is what I found and this is what I can do. So all of those things are acting professionally. And if we behave that way, the public will hopefully eventually see us that way.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Absolutely correct statement.
Well, thank you again, Gary Smith and Craig Shippy. Thank
you,
you
guys.
so much. And thank all of you out there. Yep,
Absolutely.
we will see you next month on another TST round, free round table, blah, blah. Thank you. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you
Good night,
guys
guys.
very much. You guys have a great night.
Yep, you too.